Hub studio alongside Regan Smith, Jamie McMurray, Bobby Labonte. Guys, first show together. I missed you all. It's great to be reunited.
And a long off season.
Yeah.
It has been. We're ready to go now, though, aren't we?
I think we are.
First up, right, Kaitlyn?
Yeah, and you had a big off season because you are now part of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So many Daytona 500 moments to choose from, and we actually asked our current drivers, what's the most iconic 500 moment for them? Well, we discovered there was a theme amongst their answers. Anniversary. It was 30 years ago that the 10 went to victory lane at the Daytona 500 and one of the most shocking finishes all time with Derek Cope behind the wheel. Felt for sure for Trevor Bayne. That was his first 500 start, getting the victory. There's some other guys who are going to be hoping to make their first 500 start. Your first Daytona 500 start. What is that moment truly like when you get ready to start that race?
Well, it's a big moment, and I think it's I don't know, the testing and everything else we did, but the build up to it, and then you wake up that.
For a tremendous amount about the race, but to Regan's point, I remember the 2 weeks leading. Celebrities in there, you're kind of starstruck at one moment, and it's really busy. The appearances leading up to it's more than celebrities in there. You're kind of starstruck at one moment, and it's really busy. The appearances leading up to it's more than nerves until you actually get in the car.
Yeah, my first Daytona 500 was 1990.
I know I was.
But for me, it was cars trying to make it. And if you don't make this race, what's your career going to look like? Your first race, you're in it for the full time, but what if you don't make it? So for me, my brother actually, that was, it was just anxiety to me to get to that point. I don't remember the hoopla before it, but I know that there was so much there. We were just glad that we were in it.
And speaking of that anxiety, when you're a young driver coming into this, how do you strike that balance with the veterans and having respect for them in this particular race?
Well, I mean, it's a delicate balance.
Trevor Bayne's the best example of this, right? Trevor Bayne was not full-time, first 500 start. He
unbelievably fast.
He did a good job gaining respect and doing the right things that led up to that.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to earn a lot of respect. I mean, the Daytona.
See how those rookies, how things play out for them. But speaking of there from the 90s with Sterling Marlin, what kind of a racer was he really, Jamie?
So when Sterling won 2 Daytona 500s, when I became his teammate at Ganassi, I went to him when we went to Daytona to test the first time, and I was like
very concise.
Looking for something a little more complex than that, but I appreciate the help. But he was a great guy, really good at a lot of tracks. And
in the 90s when he went to drive for Morgan McClure, they had it going on. Ernie Irvin won for them in 1991. 17,
very impressive campaign he had just last season. But Jamie, we're talking about drivers going back-to-back, winning the Daytona 500. We haven't seen it in a while because it's hard to do, right?
It's
off turn 4 without getting in some type of trouble. I mean, I think he definitely has a chance at doing this. I mean, the whole Gibbs team, and I know because he won last year, but he is really good. That team's really strong. But pack racing does lead to, you could lead going into 3, but you might not make it to the start-finish line. Nowadays, that's why it's so difficult. So, Kevin Harvick.
No. You go further back a little bit. 40 years ago was the start of the trend.
Yeah,
so,
Richard Petty.
No.
Maybe Bobby Allison.
How many guesses do you guys get? There's one. Bobby Allison.
We got 2 now. We're up to 2
Dale
on a throw.
Earnhardt.
Actually, you have 2.
Back to Race Hub, where we are looking at Daytona 500 anniversaries, and one of our own, Jamie Mack, is celebrating a 10-year anniversary of his 2005 Daytona 500 victory. Special moment there from 2010, obviously, Jamie. A little at loss for words there, but now that you've had years to reflect, what do you remember most about that day?
Well, I'm
It was getting close right there.
I know. I was getting ready to break down for sure right there. I think
that was the last race, or the second to last race before they repaved the place. It was a difficult racetrack and a tough race to win.
Yeah, and I liked your interview, and I was coming over there to congratulate you, but when you got busy, almost crying, I backed out. But anyway,
how'd your head feel the next morning?
Well, Regan, we are not on the same plan, so my head was fine. Just so you know. I think I actually had a frozen pizza that night.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're a rebel.
Dinner of champions right there.
Risky.
We're talking anniversaries this Saturday, guys. Of course, we're in that race. The highest finisher being Regan Smith in 16th. Bobby, you ended up 24th on the day. Jamie, you were 27th. Yeah, but we're going to bring Joey in now, and we're going to race that was the outcome, I guess, surprising a lot of people. What were your biggest takeaways from watching that finish there?
Yeah, well, I mean, wow, that was amazing because I thought for sure Dale Earnhardt Sr. is going. No way anybody's going to catch him. Nobody's going to spin him out. It's going to be easy, and all of a sudden, boom. I remember watching on TV going,
see how that went down. What are the odds of getting a flat tire in turn 3 on the last lap? But to give Derek Cope position, and that's what you have to do at a speedway race.
And Bobby touched on the dominance Dale had, a cut tire being one of them. And I think that was the point, and me being a Dale Sr. fan growing up as well. That's when the curse talk really started to come up, and you thought, maybe he's not going to win one of these. I'm glad that he finally did, but certainly that that was a tough day for them. I remember also Teresa in the motorhome and the shots of her in the motorhome. And it was heartbreaking for the family.
Yeah, he ended up 5th on the day. But of course, 7-time champ Dale Earnhardt would finally win the 500. He did it in 1998 in his 20th try. And speaking of Jimmy, speaking earlier today in practice out at Daytona, saying, you know, it feels really different coming to Daytona this time around. We know he's retiring from full-time racing at the end of the year. How big would it be for him to go out and get a 500 victory in a week's time?
Well, right now, Jimmy's watching this show, and he's seeing all those 7s adding up, and he's pretty excited about this. If he wasn't, the third one would be huge for him. What a magical moment that would be to cap his final season.
It's so interesting to look back at that old video footage and see the excitement in Jimmy's eyes and listen to him talk about how that kind of...
And last year, I think at this time, we were talking about how can Jimmy win and all this stuff, and he was texting us, and we were like, a whole number game is going to play in your favor. But really, the Hendrick cars, he won. He's just going to be pretty cool to see, and I think he'll be more relieved than any other Daytona 500's ever been to. So. And
certainly he might have some extra motivation on his shoulders going into this 500. Sunday.
With race trim, feel very confident in that, evidently, from what we saw right there. And, you know, the Ford's out there figuring out what their cars are going to do. I think that's a big thing.
It looked to me like the Gibbs, that's how they finished the Daytona 500 last year.
They might just go do a small pack and say, okay, our car for the 500 is good to go. We know what we want for the duels. We'll go out there and battle hard in that clash race instead. That's putting these other guys behind every time that happens.
Yeah, it really does. And I always thought the same thing. You get out there, and if you can get some more to do. So you do see that less packs out there today. But, you know, the cars are just so good and so equal and so... Hey, you know, everybody knows without much practice that they're going to be fine. But, you know, get out there for the race. It could be different.
And this practice coming up, very critical for the teams. Of course, that will happen at 4:30. So now let's head back out to the track for the first of 2 Daytona 500 practices and Mike Joy. I'm Kaitlyn Vincie alongside Bobby Labonte, Ricky Craven with us for the first time today, Regan Smith as well. Guys, Speed Weeks, it is in full swing, a very busy time for these Cup Series teams, right?
It really is. You know, yesterday,
different opinions going on.
Yeah, varying agendas as well. But now for the next half hour, this show is all about the Busch Clash that will be coming up tomorrow. And our Mike Joy takes a look back at the history of this race.
Up in the 500, but you know down deep inside that you're getting some valuable track time in that some of these other guys aren't getting, and it's definitely helping you out for the 500.
Well, the moves that you learn are...
And now, as we've talked about, not everybody gets to be in the Clash race, but let's go ahead and take a look at the horse in that iconic number 3 for Richard Childress Racing. While Austin won the 2018 Daytona 500, in the 3, he's still looking for a Clash win. The number 3, however, seemed like it was unbeatable in the Clash with Dale Earnhardt behind the wheel. We know that Jimmy can be good in the Clash, as well as Hendrick Motorsports as a whole. Regan, what's kind of the expectations for that organization as we look towards tomorrow?
Well, I would say they expect to win, much like what we saw all these Chevy teams are working towards, in particular Hendrick Motorsports this weekend. They're working towards is figuring out what they can get away with right there. I don't know that they're see how it plays out.
It's just practice.
Yeah. When you think of Hendrick Motorsports and restrictor plate speedway racing, you think of, you know, these guys are going to be, they have all the confidence, all the tools that are there in place. They do have a little bit of a nose change on the front of their car. They have a little bit of
expectations for that team. You know better than anybody. What's Mr. H's expectations? He wants to win every time.
Sky high. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Absolutely. Well, we know that Hendrick Motorsports is good when it comes to the Clash. They have 7 wins, but here's who's just a tick better. Kind of broken down which drivers have the most success in this particular race. And who do you guys think, when it comes to these shorter events, who really gets it done?
Kaitlyn, I think he's going to be the obvious choice for this year.
Well, you know what? You stuck your neck way out there, and I'm about to do when we look at these super speedway races, Joey Logano for me, all the way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go out on the limb.
Predictions here today.
He said who's the best. We're going with it.
I don't know what happened here. We're straighter at. But anyway, so yeah, I think at this point in time, what you look at is Harvick. Those guys are, you know.
Rick has not yet won with Stewart Haas Racing in the Clash, so he is going to be looking to do that, obviously, this week. As we just talked about, Ty Dillon, fastest in that practice session earlier today, guys. What else stood out to you?
Who had Ty Dillon in the pool to be the fastest in practice? Good for Ty. Small team going out there and top of the board to start practice off.
What's on the agenda right now for these teams, guys, for this session?
Well, I think the guys in my mind that drafted, they're going to go out there and maybe try and see what they got in a single car run and then start getting their cars ready for qualifying tomorrow. I would have to expect that.
Curiosity is this Chevrolet camp. Like you said, it's a new car.
Yep.
What can they get away with or not?
Yeah. This is going to be the last practice until you get to the race.
Oh, yeah.
Next